and welcome to the Dr. Suzette Glasner Podcast. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to continue to learn about addiction and mental health and behavior change from me. It is December, a time of year when most of us are starting to think about the new year ahead and what we'd like to be different, what were our misses this year, and what do we want to sort of start anew and try to work towards next year. And it's a little cliche, and maybe even for some people it feels like it's a little cheesy, but it's something that we very naturally begin to do in self-reflection when we're nearing a turning point to a new chapter. And a new year is always a new chapter of sorts. So what I want to do today is take you through a process of 6 steps. That sounds like a lot, but it's not really. It doesn't take too long. We're going to follow 6 steps together that will help you set one goal that is measurable, that is achievable, and that is realistic for you for the year ahead, and will also be impactful on the way you live life and the way you feel about yourself come this same exact time next year. So we're going to use some principles of behavior change. We're going to use some principles that I often use as go-tos in my clinical practice in addiction treatment science. And we're going to set you up for success for next year for one goal. So I want you to stay with me, grab a piece of paper if you need one, or pull out your phone and your notes or whatever it is that you like to use. And we're just going to go through this exercise together that I hope you'll be able to share with somebody you care about or love, reflect back on and see where you've come to and whether it worked, and hopefully share feedback with me on my channel, in the comments on YouTube, or at askdrglasner@gmail.com. So the first step is a brainstorm, and that's why it would help if you had something that you could jot things down with, either electronically or physically on a piece of paper. What did you do in 2025 habit-wise that you want to keep going? And what did you wish you did, but you just never got around to, or just didn't do consistently? For a lot of people, that's exercise, going to the gym, other health behaviors, dieting, avoiding sugar. And what I want you to think about this is in a few different categories. So jot down these categories. The first one is family. An example of that would be, I want to spend more time with my partner or my child or my parents, something like that. So first category is family. The second category, which is a big one for New Year's and New Year's resolutions, is personal health and well-being. So if I'm thinking about myself, I want to exercise more in the coming year. It could be that simple, but it could also be about your diet. It could also be about taking medications more regularly that you're supposed to take. It could be about being more proactive about your health. Maybe you haven't had a checkup in many years and you want to start doing that again. It could be anything, but just think about it in the category of personal health or well-being. And then the third category is work or school. An example of that would be, I want to have a better work-life balance. I want to finish my work a little bit closer to during working hours. And none of this has to be perfect or even perfectly laid out or figured out, but I just want you to create these 3 categories of family, personal health and well-being, and work or school, and just brainstorm all the things that you either want to keep going in the new year ahead, or that you'd like to do that you never got around to, or that you'd like to change. So just take a moment to do that. And you can pause me if you need to. Okay, so now we're going to go to step 2. And I want you to look at your list. I hope you did pause me so that you could actually take some time to do this brainstorm. You don't need an hour. You don't even need half an hour, but a good few minutes to really think and reflect and sort of write down all these different categories, and think carefully about what you'd like to see happen, unfold differently for you this year. So, assuming you have a decent meaty list in front of you, or at least a couple of things in each category, I want you to rank order the top 3 things that you jotted down there that you'd like to tackle this year. Just the top 3. Because ultimately, not to jump too far ahead, but we're going to narrow it down to 1. and it's going to be the one that's going to be very impactful for you. So I'll give you a second to rank order those 3. Okay. So now I want you to take the top thing on that list, and I want you to write down your why for that. This is really important because our motivation to make changes is a very important, I would call essential driving force. And when we're making a change that's not easy to make, it is easy to forget why it matters. So you need that documented somewhere on your phone, on a piece of paper, on a sticky note, somewhere. But you need a reminder that you can turn back to time and again of your why. So let's say that you want to eat less sugar or you want to exercise. So why? Why would your life be better if you did that successfully? So an example, if the goal is to eat less sugar, well, maybe the last time you had a physical, your sugar was too high and that scared you, for example. Or maybe you're not happy with your weight. So if you were to do that successfully, you would feel better about yourself. Or maybe you just don't feel good when you eat too much sugar. You get shaky, or you can just feel it physically. Those are just a couple of reasons why things would be better if you did that successfully. Another thing you can think about when you're writing down and thinking about your why is what will happen if you don't do it. Because usually our motivation to make changes and do things differently is rooted in those 2 things. What would be better if I did this? And what would happen if I didn't do this? Okay, so now that you have your why, the next thing I want you to do is rate how strong your motivation is to make this change on a scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is you're not motivated at all and 10 is you could not be more motivated. And the reason we do this rating is because when you come back and reflect on your progress towards the goal or what you're doing to reach the goal, one of the key questions you can ask yourself is, what is my motivation right now compared to what I wrote down that first day? And how could I push it up 1 more point, whatever it is? So if you're saying it's a 7 right now, the next time you take a look at this, or even now today, thinking about what would it take for it to be an 8? Would something have to happen? Do I have to just start doing it and then I'm going to feel even more motivated? That often happens. It's just something to be reflecting on continuously as you're continuing to drive towards making a difficult change. Okay, now we're almost done. So step number 5 is thinking about what is the first step that you need to take to make this happen. So coming back to the example of increasing exercise. Sometimes we only get so far as to thinking about a goal that we have, but we don't think that next step of what do I need to do, and sort of breaking it down into manageable steps or little kind of phases, we'll call it. So if my goal is to exercise, maybe my next step is to figure out where I'm going to exercise and what I'd like to do. Do I want to go for walks in my neighborhood? Do I have video that I want to do at home? Do I need to get out of the house in order to exercise because I'm too distracted and procrastinate too much when I'm at home? Do I need to find somebody to go with me? Maybe a friend, or maybe work with a trainer, like somebody to keep me accountable. Like really thinking through what is the next step. And maybe if you can think that far, the next series of a few more steps that would make it more likely that I would be successful. Maybe it's downloading an app that will help me track how often I'm exercising or how many steps I'm taking, or, there's any number of things that could be a next step. It could be a little step, or it could be a big step. It could be joining a gym, and that's a bigger commitment. But before you would even do that, you would need to research different gyms. So I'm just giving you that example of exercise, but if it's something like taking your medications that you want to commit to, maybe the next step is you need a pill box, or you need to write down the schedule of all of your medications and when you take them, because one of the reasons that you don't is because it's confusing or something like that. So you have to think really critically and carefully about what is the next step. And then finally, we're on number 6, and this is the conclusion of this exercise, which is you need to plan specifics because it's easy to dream up in your head a new goal and a thing that you want to do and then stop there and then it just never happens, or you sort of start doing it but you run out of steam. So you have to be very exact about your plan. So whatever those next couple of steps are, or even the next step, you need to think about what day am I going to do it, and ideally what time am I going to do it. So you need to set some time aside. For example, if I'm going to research gyms or I'm going to take a walk for the first time, I need to plan a date and a time, and I need to put that in my calendar. So that's step 6. Figure out when are you going to take that next step, be very specific about it, and then commit to it in writing somewhere in your calendar, write it down in your notes, whatever you're using right now to do this exercise. And then I want you to think about how you approach yourself if you do this or you don't do it. So let's say you plan that on Saturday you're going to take a walk and then you don't do it. For a lot of people, that would lead to just disengaging from the goal completely. Like, I failed, I didn't do it. A lot of it has to do with the way that we interpret our own behavior and what it means about ourselves, and we often make more of it than it needs to be. So don't overinterpret it. Don't beat yourself up for it. If you don't do it on Saturday, you need to just get back on or sort of get re-engaged with this process and hit reset. Set a new date, set a new time, and then importantly, make sure that you reward yourself for taking that step, whatever that means, whether you get yourself something you like or do something you like take a bubble bath or go to a movie, or it could be an activity. It could be something that you do for yourself. It could be something relaxing. The key to it is that you tell yourself as you're doing it, I'm doing this to reward myself for doing that. Because you're going to create this sort of like positive cycle of self-talk, of what we call positive reward or positive reinforcement for following through. And then finally, the last step is drop a comment in the YouTube chat and let me know how this went for you. I really want to know, and I really want to help you sort of begin to use this as a building block for lasting change in the new year. I hope you learned something valuable, and I look forward to seeing you next time.